The lives of 12 people intersect in a providential way. Is it worth watching? Find out when it... Wait. 12? Dang it, Pureflakes! So, when I first heard about Do You Believe, I was not very hopeful. First of all, it's a Pureflix movie, and their stuff can be hit and miss. Secondly, it was billed as their follow-up to God's Not Dead, and was actually written by the same people. Well, if you've seen my review of God's Not Dead, then you can understand why that made me apprehensive. And thirdly, 12 main characters. 12. I'm sorry, Pureflix, I don't care if you have Sean Astin in your movie, you are not ready for Lord of the Rings. So those were my initial thoughts. But then I started to hear from people that it was actually better than God's Not Dead. Even people who shared my view on the general quality of Pureflix movies were starting to say that Do You Believe was actually pretty good. So I was intrigued and decided to go ahead and give it a fair chance. And now having seen it, I have to say it's definitely different than I expected. Now, because there are so many different characters, I actually had a difficult time figuring out which ones counted as the dozen souls. Boy, there's a Christian superhero team name for you. So I'll just do my best to give you a very brief overview of the different storylines in this thing. In no particular order, we have Pastor Matthew, who is inspired by the words of a street preacher to take a closer look at what it means to believe in Christ. Matthew's wife, and a homeless pregnant girl they take in. Samantha and her daughter Lily, who are also homeless. Joe, the church janitor with a rough past and a heart of gold. Bobby, who's an EMT, his wife, who's a nurse, and his wife's brother, who's a Marine returned home from the war. Older couple, JD and Terry, who have been mourning the death of their daughter for years. Two gangster brothers, Criminal and Pretty Boy. Lacey, who is suicidally depressed after being cut off by her father. A doctor, played by Sean Astin, and his lawyer wife, both of whom are bitter atheists. I'm not sure where I've seen that character type before. Yeah, I think there's all of them. So yeah, a lot of storylines in this thing. But unlike God's Not Dead, the way they all connect and intertwine actually works really well. The core message of the movie is showing the ripple effect that a radical step of faith can have in so many lives. The movie opens with one of my favorite verses, James 2:17. Faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. I like that particular translation because it gets around the objections of people who get hung up on the word works. If you've seen my movie In His Steps, and you'll know that this is something I'm quite passionate about. Comfort and apathy are two of the biggest roadblocks that keep the church from being effective. Now, while Do You Believe doesn't hit on the issue quite as hard as I personally like, it definitely does a good job of showing what Christianity in action can look like. You know, it's funny, this is actually the second Pureflix movie I've seen that was pleasantly surprising in going beyond the usual kitschy American evangelicalisms that I expected to find. That other movie was Christmas with a capital C, which, oddly enough, also starred Ted McGinley.
Coincidence? I think not!
Now, since there are so many storylines, several of the characters do suffer from underdevelopment. Chief of these is, of course, the atheist characters. On the other hand, most of the characters actually have pretty well developed personalities and journeys, even if their individual stories are really brief. And what I most appreciated about it is that it didn't try to tack on a pathetic call to action like its predecessor.
Click on everybody you know and text them.
Sorry, I'm a little sore about that still. The call of putting faith into action is actually given pretty early in the movie, and the rest of the story is a result of people acting out that call. The message is delivered with a lot more subtlety, which is not something you can often say about Christian movies. So, the question is it worth watching? The acting is a solid 5. I can't think of any weak links in the cast, not even the kid. The story's going to be a 4, because again, it is pretty bloated with too many characters, but they definitely did a much better job writing them and connecting them than in God's Not Dead. The production values are also a 5, just like all of Pureflix's movies. Their bigger budget was definitely put to good use. Overall, I would rate Do You Believe a 4 out of 5. This movie surprised me and well exceeded my admittedly low expectations. Honestly, my biggest disappointment with this movie is that it didn't get huge press like God's Not Dead. This movie is way better. Why isn't this one getting the sequel? Not that it needs it, but still. So how about you? Do you agree that Christians have a problem putting faith into action? If not, what is our biggest problem? If you're watching this anywhere besides IndyChristianReview.com, head over there and leave a comment and let me know what you think. If you like what I do here, please subscribe and consider supporting Indy Christian Review on Patreon at patreon.com/storyteller. Thank you for watching, may God bless you, and may God bless independent Christian films.